Welcome to Friday night's video in our second master series. I do believe this is the 59th video in our second master series, the 8th video in our basic processors, and the 7th video on equalizers. So I'm going to make this video really quick. In the next couple videos, we're going to get into parameters of our basic EQ and our dynamic EQ. But there's a couple things I want to address real quick. So that from the first master series and the second master series, hopefully that we've gotten deep enough into the equalizer and the concepts that we really need to focus on to do as good a job as possible. Now, there's a couple, we're going to talk about parameters, but there's another really important aspect that's really going to help take you to the next level. That is, the first thing we want to talk about is other software that helps us facilitate what we want to do. And this will become a little more obvious when we talk about, after we start talking about the equalizers themselves in a moment. But a piece of software like RX6. Now, this piece of software, I can get in there, and I mean, a real simple thing here is that, you know, I've got low end saturation here that I can attenuate and boost easily. I've got saturation content here that's happening between these notes that I can work with. Kind of like automation, but with my EQs, but in much finer detail. Where my EQ I might be or might not be able to, with the abilities of my bread and butter EQs, be able to get in there and focus on small little things that I'm trying to fix that are in certain bands or certain areas or things like that, and being able to attenuate them rather than just cut them out with a filter in the way that I want. There are lots of different situations that a piece of software like this, once you become that quote-unquote next level master audio engineer and really understand your equalization, that this tools like this can help you get deeper under the hood when you're doing more detailed work, or when you understand the limitations of the equalizers you're using, that these can help you facilitate things to get things done that you know you need to get done from being a next level master audio engineer. So that is a huge topic for you to study on and for you to start digging into to become that next level master audio engineer. The next thing is, for the more you understand tools like this and the more you understand your basic meat and potatoes equalizers, is that you will understand when a tool is useful or not. And with all due respect, sometimes I will buy a tool that, and it can be an expensive tool. It might cost $200 or $300, but it does some equalization thing that I wanted to do. One aspect of it does one thing that I think is really cool, that does something, facilitates something I want done really well. Whereas my other tools aren't doing that, and so I will buy it for that reason. That comes from experimentation and understanding your equalization and things like that. Now, another concept we got to talk to is that, you know, your tools, the degree of the quality of tools that you have. And this can be a huge problem because there's a couple of different aspects of it. You're going to want to test your tools for a couple of different reasons. The first reason is that whether it's hardware or software, depending on how well of the job they did on the electronics or on the coding to implement the functions and things like that and the formulas that are needed in the mathematics to perform what they're trying to do, that you're going to want to investigate how well they do that. And if you really want to get to that next level, get something like MATLAB and start investigating different types of equalization filters and algorithms and formulas and things like that with the mathematics, you know, that, and functions, different mathematical functions that are inherent in different type of filters that are going to help you understand your filtering better, especially with your equalization. Now, this topic can be huge because there's a couple problems. The first problem is that the coding or the outboard gear that you have might do other things you don't want it to do. So you're going to want to test it to see if it's adding things, doing things that you want it to do. It might even be doing something to the stereo field when you apply it that it's definitely not saying in the manual that it does something like that. And you get out an equalizer, not supposed to be really affecting the stereo field in that way, but you testing it can show you that it is, so you can compensate for it. And I'll give you an example of it. That's a far field example, but more, meat potatoes examples is that I've got my equalizer here. Okay, now my equalizer here, I've got my equalizer here set, and I'm using my FFT curve. Now, when you're testing your equalizers, and if I don't say it with your other tools, that testing them is of utmost importance. And with the equalizer, there's normal sound tracks, vocal tract or whatever that you can test it with, but noise files are great. I've got a white noise file here that goes completely across the spectrum. It's the same level basically across the spectrum, so I can test my equalizer. What do we see right away on my equalizer? It does not look like that, does that? So two things are happening. Either my equalizer is lying, or I didn't read my manual well enough to understand it's visualizing this information this way because it's compensating for something or doing something visually for some reason. So the first thing we want to do is read our manuals thoroughly, and anything we don't understand, we investigate on the internet, or we ask the manufacturer directly in emails so that we understand everything it's saying it's trying to do and how it does that. Well, no matter what type of filter it's using, what the algorithm, any information it's giving you to understand thoroughly. The next thing is to test it. We just tested it right here. I've got my spectrum analyzer out. It's showing me a nice white noise file all the way, full spectrum all across the spectrum. My equalizer is not showing me that. It's either lying or it's doing something because of the algorithm that will explain that to me in the manual that I didn't read. So read your manual first of all and foremost. Now, that's one bust. The next bust we got is we go in here and we test it. I'm at 500 hertz. I test the level here, seeing about where the level is. I've made a note about it, and then I go in here and I take this little note and I drop it down exactly that much with that type of a cue on it. And then I go make notes about that. I go back here and test it and see it. Is it doing that? Nope, it didn't do that. It's lying to me. Okay, so in becoming that next level master audio engineer, now I'm not going to get too deep because this could get really long, but test it with all your analysis tools. Vocal files, guitar files, noise files, things like that. Test it with all your analysis tools to really understand exactly what it is doing, and if it's doing, how much it's lying is normally a huge aspect. Now, not only can it be lying, but there's been times I've had tools that just don't do what they say and they do it at all. I go in here and this says it is a low pass filter, and it might not be doing nothing. I mean, it might be doing nothing. It's like for show or something. I had a speaker one time that had tweeter on it, that the tweeter doesn't do nothing on there. It's just for show, but they certainly didn't say nothing about that in the manual. Does that make sense? And they certainly didn't say nothing about it when I was buying the speaker. So, that's a far-fetched example, but to test to see if it's even doing what it says it's supposed to be doing, and to what degree is it doing it. So as we talk about, the parameters in the next couple of videos, we'll talk about the meat potatoes, equalization and our dynamics equalizer, is to what degree is it actually doing that? It's showing this and it's telling me this, but what is it actually doing? That way, when we start becoming this next master audio engineer, next level master audio engineer, with all the equalization we talked about in my first master series and in the second master series, then we understand when we start trying to apply these things, and you're sitting at home, Bob, and you go to put your EQ up, and I think I know, I understand sound, and I've talked to and then these people is it actually doing that? Nope, it's not actually doing that. So it's lying. So to what degree is it doing that? Now, the concept here that it's more likely lying to you anyway. Now, the hurdle you have to get over is that if I take my EQ here to NASA and tell them I'm going to fix their bazillion-dollar probe that's going to fly by Mars by 1 centimeter off and it's going to crash into the sun, that they're going to throw me out of NASA because they're going to go, bro, if you try to apply that equalizer to my NASA probe, I will kill you. I will kill you. There's just no doubt about it. I will shoot you right here in NASA. So you have to understand that this equipment wasn't made to deal with that kind of stuff. But sometimes music is way more complicated than the stuff they're dealing with. So it seems a little backwards. So, but you can't afford $1 billion equalizer. So you might be able to afford a better equalizer. That's debatable. But do I throw, this is my stock equalizer for my dog. Do I throw it in the garbage? Nope. This is one of my meat and potato equalizers. I use this equalizer all the time. But I know where it's not doing something and when it's lying to me. So I can compensate for that and make up for the lie that it's telling me. This is a huge step in you becoming that next level master audio engineer, is testing your equalizer. Testing it. What is it actually doing? So no matter whether you're doing, you're going to get in here, you're going to do some shelf EQ work in a low end for some reason, with something here, and you think you're doing this, this is what I think I'm doing, and I don't know, that looks funky, but that what you're trying to do, is it doing that? Nope. It is not doing that. To what degree is it doing that, and how much is it lying? And not only that, is that these are going to interact. I've put the shelf EQ on here, I've put this one on here, and they're going to interact in some way that's going to cause something to happen. So between those two, you see the slope is changing, because if I turn this off, you see that nice gradual slope, but that has changed. And now it's trying to tell you it's doing something else. Is that what it's actually doing? Which is going to cause you some fun experimenting around and testing your tools and sitting down with a pen and piece of paper and writing out how close things actually are. Which sounds like a lot of work, but this is part of you becoming that next level master audio engineer, to understand what your tool is actually doing. Study your manual well, understand all the concepts it's trying to tell you, what it's trying to relate to you, and then test it with all your analysis tools to test it well, to understand if it's actually doing any damn thing, if it's not completely lying, or if it's lying a little bit. Does that make sense? It's kind of lying. Does that make sense? So you understanding that will help you to use your equalizer better, so that you understand that you get out your equalizer and you think you're dealing with this NASA equalizer and you're going to come down 1 bazillionth of a dB here. Yeah, I didn't do shit. Well, so, you pretending to be this, finito, audio engineer that's working in 1 billionth of a decibel, bro, to make it perfect. That, well, it ain't doing a damn thing, just not. And you have to test it with different sound files and things like that, and with test generators and things like that. Sound, noise files, test generators that you can work off exact frequency and things like that are really going to help you test it to see how good of a job it's actually doing. So this is a huge topic, and I could talk about this for days. The biggest thing is for you to understand this is an issue, and this is something you need to test your equalizer and each one of your other processors to see if it's actually doing what it says it's doing, and by how much it's lying to you, or if it's completely lying to you and it's not doing anything it says it's do, so that you understand what is actually happening. So I certainly hope you enjoyed this video on testing your equipment, and I will see you in the next video.